wants to see the dog in the meantime.
Hey guys, hold on.
There's the dog. Hi, Doug. Hi, Doug. You see Doug?
Oh, whoops.
I guess I deserve that.
All right, there we go.
Ugh.
Dr. D, where you at, my friend?
Oops.
There you go. A wave, and then, okay, there's a...
Doug, move.
Going live.
Move. I got slimed by the dog.
You got slimed?
I did. Will you scooch back a tiny bit?
Sure. Scram, dog.
He's gonna be.
All right, D, where you at? JD.
It says connecting. Oh, there he is.
There you
hey.
Hello.
How are you?
Awesome. How are you guys?
We're fabulous.
Doing good, man. Okay, hold on.
I get a hand every time I see you.
What do you say?
Will we look handsome? I don't know what he said.
Yes.
He disappeared. He's
All
gone.
right.
Every time I see you, you're getting better looking. I feel like I'm getting older and dumber, and y'all are getting handsomer every time.
I think you might be right.
Yeah, I know. We think the same thing too.
No, I'm just kidding.
You're like beautiful Northeasterners, man, or Northwesterners.
Yeah. Yeah. The rain keeps our skin,
Right.
you know,
Supple.
moist.
Yes.
No. So, John, it's good to see you, man. I'm always thankful for when we get to hang out continuously.
Oh, love it.
Glad to getting to know you more. And how you doing? Like, for real, not the like trite, like, oh, this, you know, but like, how's it going?
Last week was hard, man. Last week was like, I was done with it. My wife was super done with it, man. Last week was rough. Kids
Yeah.
crying.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, this week just was kind of like we're going to do better. So yesterday was awesome. So I feel like we're hitting a new groove this week. Kind of a realization this is not going to be forever. And if it is, I got to live in this. And so I get to choose how it's going to look like. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tennessee's opening back up at the end of next week, I think. And so I think there's just some natural optimism there. I tend to be a little more, not pessimistic, a little more realistic about they're just going to hire all 27 million people back, May 1st. So we'll see how it plays out, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Somebody says, Tiff says, I feel you today is hard. Like,
Yeah.
that's a good thing that maybe we weren't planning on talking about. But yesterday, I found myself just kind of being irritated. And then this morning, and I like snipped a little bit at Melanie. And like, we like to keep it real here. So we were just kind of going through that. And I was like, maybe it's with work stuff or the realization of, I feel like we're in a different phase of the COVID stuff now. All the novelty's worn off. All the like crazy fear mongering's going off. You can actually buy toilet paper now, and now it's kind of like, okay, what is this going to look like? So it's a big adjustment for everybody. And I just found myself just kind of like a little snippy yesterday, and it wasn't like oh, I hate you. It was just like I'm snippy. But I know myself when I get like that, I need to talk about it, and sometimes when I avoid conflict, it's just not, it doesn't make it good, right? So we need to dive into that. And we're just having a conversation that way. So, I thank you for sharing your crappy week. But yeah, we strive to do better every single day, at least,
So I believe, and this is just like my cosmic mythology I live by, that you stumble into books as you're able to read them.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had a book on my shelf for a year by Emily Nagoski called Come As You Are.
Yes.
Have y'all read that?
Yes.
Dude, her explanation of feelings as a cycle, I've never heard it put that way, and I was so annoyed that I spent 5 years going through a second PhD in counseling, and I could have just got it for $18 in like a paperback book, man. So annoying.
Yeah.
But that idea of once that frustration or once I feel myself get snippy, I know that something's been pushed down a hill, and I can fight it or I can absorb it, go exercise, go talk it out, and then loop back. And then I got to go be courageous on the back end, right? I can't let my feelings drive me. But I love the metaphor of it being a cycle, and I'm going to steal from that liberally. But I like that. That was helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we read that book a while back, and another one of our dear friends, Dr. Tina Shermer-Sellers, who's out here. She's actually one of my professors, and we worked with her since then on the podcast and stuff. She is also in the same field as Emily Nagoski, and she got to interview her, and just the wisdom around the stuff they talk about is so phenomenal. And one of my favorite things that you said, we can have books and like we have to be ready, but it's one of my favorite sayings that the teacher will appear when the student is ready. And that can be anything from a book that's been sitting on our shelf, or the same thing that Melanie's been telling me for 5 years, but then somebody else tells me, like you could tell me, and I'll be like, oh yeah. Right. I think we've all had that. And, I've been telling you that for 5 years, but if John told me or some other guy,
Hey, trust me, this weekend I heard it. I said, I now understand why you don't want to make out when the dishes are dirty. And it's this idea of context. And then about an hour later, my wife walked in and she goes, I just want you to know that I've been telling you something for 20 years, and it's really annoying that you just got a book, and suddenly it's this big revel. So, we're trying to work it out.
Can I air high five your wife for that? I've been telling you for 20 years. Yeah. So this is really cool, because this is literally what I wanted to talk about today, was becoming who you want to become. And one of the questions in here is like, what are the books that you're reading right now that have helped you become who you want to become, and all of that stuff. But before we dive into those questions, I want to talk about like how we have changed personally and what growth looked like for us, and like talk about the old version of us versus the now version of us, and then what we want to be in the future. Does that jive with y'all and make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so who wants to share?
Why don't you lead it out?
Well, I mean, again, I go back to the title is Becoming Who We Want to Become. And how do we do that? And how do we have a vision for who we want to become? And when I think of how I was 10 years ago, and on top of that, 20 years ago, I was, as a 7-year-old, I was terrible. I'm just kidding. I'm not 27. But I think back of, I could never have envisioned who I am right now and doing what I'm doing right now. I could have never seen that. One, and most importantly, because I didn't know that I had the choice of envisioning myself in multiple ways, right? And so now I have this new insight through all the books that I've read, things like Extreme Ownership, Come As You Are, The Family Ties That Bind, all of these things to create who I want to become. And when I set my old self against who I am right now, I used to be incredibly selfish. I did not care what people thought about me. I wanted what I wanted, and I would get it any way that I could. I would lie to people. I would steal things. I was not a Christian. And I think my first real transformation into becoming who I am now was meeting Jesus and becoming a Christian, and how my faith changed who I am, and how that journey has led me to today. But I want to talk about, like, how are you guys different from how you were back then? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
So
I know that's a weird question.
I'll say, from the time I was young until, when we talked about this back in October, I mean, if there was a stage or a camera, I was so running for it. And it didn't matter if I didn't have anything to say, that I didn't have any talent. I just needed to be there. And it was about 10 years ago that I started shying away from all of that, and really, like, no social media, none of that stuff. And I really got focused on less about where I was going and who I was going to be wherever I ended up. And I had to be honest with myself and realize I was a Burger King manager back when I was 18, 19, and 20. Like, dude, that job was a lot of fun. Like, I had a good time there. I didn't make any money, but it was fun. And then I was a high school basketball coach, and that was a lot of fun. And then I worked in colleges, so I started realizing you're kind of who you are. Like, wherever you go, that's where you're going to be. And so I got less concerned with where I was going to end up, and then I decided I'm going to get really good at my job. And so I want to be really, like, if people are going to come to me and say, hey, my marriage is falling apart, or I'm going to kill myself, you better know what you're talking about, right? Because people are going to get hurt. So that was the first time, and I'm embarrassed to say that, it was like when I was 35, when I started really deciding I want to be good at a craft. And then, lo and behold, I stumbled into some job that's, has a bigger stage than I ever could have dreamt of it. So it's just this, and if this goes away, I was just having this conversation with my son, Hank, who's 10. I was just telling him yesterday, if this all goes away and me and Mom go back to being high school teachers, we'll have fun there too. You know what I mean? Like, this is a fun adventure, and I hope we do this for 30 more years, but if we don't, that's okay. And I just want to be good, less about where I want to be and what the picture's going to look like, and more, who am I going to do when I get there? I didn't even know this was a job 9 months ago, 10 months. I didn't know what this was. was, right? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you hit on a lot of things that really resonated with me, and they resonated because I've lived through them and are currently thinking about them, right? So I had a really good conversation, I don't know, a month and a half ago with Luke Lefevre, right? The creative director at Ramsey Solutions. And he asked me, he said, Seth, would you and Melanie be doing this podcast? Would you be doing any of this stuff, even if it weren't having anything to do with Ramsey or anything to do with Instagram Lives or anything like that?
Profitable
or anything. And I said,
if no one was watching.
If no one was watching, would you still be doing this? And I was like, Luke, that is an amazing question. And I can honestly say, yes, we would still be doing this because we went through a really rough time, almost got divorced in our marriage, and we were looking for resources, just like pleading for resources that weren't super cheesy or super lame or super trite, things that really didn't help. We were looking for those resources, and we honestly could not find them. So it's like, okay, once you go through something really, literally traumatic, because all that stuff was trauma to some degree, it's like, okay, I'm never going back there no matter what. So how can we use this situation and go out there and do? And another thing, I read, it's like one of those books. I've heard of the John Eldredge book, Wild at Heart. Literally, I've known about that book for 15 years, and I never read it. People would say, oh, it's a good book. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'm sure it is. I should read it. And I finally listened to the book. I think it was probably 5 months ago now, and I read it 4 times. 4 times. And it hit me like the universe hit me. And I was just praying, walking around praying, and said, God, what is this? And he said, Seth, you're a helper. Go help. And like at that moment, I took an inventory of the jobs that I've had in the last 20 years. It's always been helping. Obviously, I'm a therapist now. I work with special needs communities. I work with schools. I work with all kinds of charity, Habitat for Humanity. So I had the proof to look back and go, what have I been doing just over these last 20 years? And that realization that you just said, you know what? You're talking to your son. If this goes away, we're going to be happy wherever we are. And I came to the realization, not even at 35, like 5 years after that, hey, Seth, wherever you go, whatever you do, you're going to help and you're going to build. So now I build programs for mental health, all kinds of stuff, like thinking outside of the box. And even with this show, we help and we build things. We build resources. So if I end up in Malaysia doing who knows what, I'll be helping and I'll be building stuff. Or if we end up in Nashville, we will be helping and we will be building stuff. Or if we're here in Maple Valley, we're going to help and build. At least for me, right? And Melanie has her own path, but it is the universe saying, hey, you're a helper, you're a builder. When you get out of that, that's when you are going sideways. So that's who I want to sit in, and just like you, and I think from a guy, it's a little bit different. It's a different kind of energy, that masculine piece of it. It's like, yeah, I have to do this. And it's different for a woman, too. It's like, yeah, when I'm not doing this, I'm not feeling it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that came to my mind as I was writing these questions was that often we note there are notable changes in our lives, the scope of our lives from childhood, like we're newborns, then we're toddlers, then we learn to walk, then we learn to read, then we learn to write, right? And there's this sort of progression of growth and change that is very apparent in younger children. And then you hit puberty and you get married and then you stop changing and growing. Your body doesn't change and grow. You're not going to learn how to start flying now, right? There's no thing that happens where the world says, okay, change, do that next step. So that is something that really struck me as being important. Mm-hmm. So what do you guys think is the next step, essentially after puberty? What's the next thing we should be working on in the different phases of our growth?
Well, I think this is going to sound cheesy, and I used to work at universities, and so it's going to sound even super lamer, but it's this idea of being a lifelong learner. There is no such thing as there, and there is no job that. I remember 2 years. Was it 2 years ago? Right when I got to Nashville, I took a meeting with a guy who used to work at Vanderbilt Psychiatric, and he said he had developed a kind of a filter that goes over your phone that could tell if you were going to kill yourself or not by voice inflections months before you actually were going to do it. And I said, if that's true, if you've developed this technology, everything I know about the world is wrong, and it's all different. And so I don't know whether that technology actually is going to come to fruition or not, but I know that's where he was headed. And I thought, man, I thought counseling was going to be the one job the robots couldn't have, and I don't know, right? And I can imagine being a t-shirt manufacturing company 2 months ago that's now making masks. So it's this idea of always being excited for taking in new info, and that's why it's important to me that I'm reading nonfiction books and fiction books and books about counseling and mental health, but also books about architecture and art and music. So it's just enjoy soaking up new stuff. And I think for our parents, there was this idea that if you have to look at something new or learn anew, then something was broken in your life. And we have to acknowledge we're just not going to have that 30-year job or that 50-year job. To your point, Seth, we're going to have that 30 or 50-year mission. And we're going to have this calling that's going to look the same whether I work in a magazine or for a radio show or for a high school teacher. That's going to look the same. If I end up back at Burger King, I'll have done something tragically wrong with my career. But if I end up back at Burger King, I'm still going to try to make people's day a little bit better, right? And give them diabetes too, but I want to make their day a little bit better. And that's the same thing I want to do when I'm on Dave's show on Thursday, right? Is I want people's lives to be a little bit better. And so it's carrying that calling wherever you happen to be plugged into, instead of letting the outlet be the identity for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And I think what resonates with me with what you're saying there is that even, especially as parents, is if we stop learning at the time that we have our children, let's say you're 25 years old or 30 or whatever, and you go, yeah, I think I know all the things I need to know. Now I'm just going to be a parent. You are doing a disservice to your child in many, many ways. And one of the things I think is the most important thing is that we are constantly modeling for our children what they can and can do, what they believe or don't believe about themselves. And when we stay stuck, they're very likely to stay stuck as well. If we think, I don't try new foods, they won't try new foods because more is caught than taught, right? So I think it's an interesting idea that as we are stepping into a different phase, if we are parents or in a particular job setting, we are role models for people around us. And how can we model the behavior of growth and learning new things? Because in life, you don't know what's around the corner, right? Tomorrow, I may experience my house flooding. I don't know anything about that right now, but I might know about it tomorrow. And so, being open-minded, having that ability to say, you know what, this isn't what I expected, but I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to do the best I can with this, and all of that kind of thing, I think is so important. And in becoming who we want to become. And I do, or was there something else you wanted to say? I know I cut you off.
I was going to say my mom grew up in a home that strongly discouraged women from going to college. That was just kind of the ethos. And she took her first community college class at age 42. Wow. I was a freshman in high school, and so I think we used either algebra or geometry we took together. And then she took a class, and then another class, and she got her PhD at 57.
What?
Tenured at 62, and now she's the department chair. She wouldn't get on an airplane without 32 Xanax, and now she teaches classes at Oxford all over. She's all over the world as a 70-year-old. And so it's this idea that I love this analogy. There was a couple in Lubbock, Texas, who were 35-ish or so, and they were talking, and they're like, you know what, we always want to go to med school, but that's like 7 years. And the advice they got was so wise. They said, well, here's the deal. You're going to be 42. You can choose either to be 42 as a doctor or 42 not, but you're going to be 42. And it was like, oh, yeah, so I'm just, you know what I mean? So you can decide all day long to restart, to reset, to remove. But who are you going to be when you get there? That's the key point.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's a really good way to look at things, because it puts the perspective in forward thinking, and then also utilizes the concept of reverse engineering. When I'm 42, what do I see myself?
A picture of this life going to look like. Yep.
Yeah. So you picture yourself. Okay, I picture myself somewhere. I'm 42. What does my life look like? What degree do I have or not degree do I have? Do I have kids? Do I have a family? All this stuff. So that process of reverse engineering may segue into the thing. I think we've been kind of rapping on this a lot over our talks, is my goal is to fare well through this pandemic. So if I can look out 2 months from now, what's today? April 21st. So June 21st. Okay. I see myself on June 21st accomplishing a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish, maybe the 30 days of wellness, any other thing that we're doing, and also have read 3 books by then, and to keep a positive attitude every single day. And by doing that, I write down a journal of stuff. So I envision myself on June 21st backwards saying, dude, you did it. Good job. Awesome. So then I'm envisioning how I'm going to be when I'm not even there yet.
Yeah.
I'm envisioning, like, how do I get to today? Like, how do I get through, like, I don't even know what June, I had a 1-year ramp up, to start here at Ramsey, and all of a sudden, like, about 4 weeks ago, Dave's like, hey, dude, deep into the pool, go get them. And it was awesome. It's been a great, but I couldn't have imagined that this is the world I would be in. So I'm going to get through today, and I'm going to be a good human being today. I'm going to care for my family and my community today. I'm going to get up, I'm going to do it again tomorrow, and do it again tomorrow. I love that intentionality, man. I'm going to be intentional, and then we're going to come what may, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The one thing that I loved how you did your like index card, and I was like rifling through my desk trying to find mine. I'm like, I know I have some in here, but the thing that kind of popped up in my head too is that sometimes we do try to envision so far out into the future that we lose track of what each step looks like, and each step is sometimes a 10-minute interval or a 30-minute or a day. And so what I love to do at the beginning of my day is tell myself what a successful day will look like at the end of that day. So if you know what I mean? Like I go, today will feel like a success if I, and it usually is something like post my Instagram things and publish the episode. So it's kind of business stuff. I got to get these things done. And then if I'm loving to my children, if I'm patient during homeschooling, and if I get the dishes done before and I'm serious, like these handful of things that seem unimportant, when done collectively and consistently over time, will have equaled, I will get where I want to be going. But if I don't remember what the breakdown of those things looks like, it can totally get lost. I can get lost in the weeds of like, I don't know, and then I get overwhelmed and eat like 1,000 bonbons, which I don't even know what a bonbon is. Seth always says it.
Emily asked me that idea that she was talking about with turn on the ons and turn off the offs, right? And so if I go through my day and say, what are the things in my ecosystem that make me want to be intimate with my wife and make me want to be a good dad and make me not want to shove gummy candy down every orifice in my face? Like, what are the things that I need to set up about my day? Because I know I'm going to lose to the enemy of fatigue at the end of the night, and I know I'm going to lose to the enemy of gummy candy when it's sitting in front of me. So what do I need to do upstream to make sure that I'm creating a world where that garden's going to grow that I want to look at? And it's a lot of responsibility that goes on me, and that I like to blame everybody else for, right? Yeah. But I've got to, and you got to go be courageous and do it, right? I love
Sounds like you need to stop buying gummy candy.
Oh, dude, so good.
And one thing, okay, your index card, at the end of the day, and you can honestly say, I checked off every single thing on that index card. How do you feel?
I actually, I'm lame enough to where sometimes I'll do a thing that I forgot to put on the card, and I'll go write it on the card so I can mark it off.
Yeah.
Just like, and that, you know where that comes from for me is the clinical interventions for people with major depressive disorder, when you're just looking for little wins, right? I need you to wake up today, put on lipstick, go back to bed. That's your win for the day. And then tomorrow, I want you to brush your teeth, put on lipstick, go back to bed, right? And it's this idea of just getting little wins throughout the day keeps you going and going and going and going. And Melanie, you just said it awesome. You get rich $10 at a time. And I know we like to think of it as everyday millionaire, like you don't stumble into that. You get rich deciding not to get fancy coffees every day. That's how that happens. And there are a million little habits and little decisions, and suddenly you find yourself in this other new universe that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, and I love like Jocko Willink talks about this. I know we've talked about this before, but the idea of like hungry doesn't get a vote, tired doesn't get a vote, angry doesn't get a vote. Like the idea of questioning the things that are stopping you and making you stumble each step of the way, and really being like, no, my little like baby whiny voice does not get a vote in this. I need to do the right thing if I want to get to the right place. And it's, it's doing hard things on purpose to show yourself that you have the grit to get there. You have what it takes to do this. And sometimes you got to give yourself a little pep talk to get there. You know?
I love it. I love it. And you got to have community in your life that will pep talk with you, right?
Yes, that's huge. That's huge. So I did want to share really quickly, what are y'all's favorite resources for becoming the person that you want to become? So books that have really impacted you, TV series, like educational stuff, TED Talks, whatever. Let's list them out for people.
Okay. Jump in, John.
Go for it. Yes, you go for it.
Okay, so for me, I found great value in doing a lot of Enneagram work. So that means taking the Enneagram test. And I'm not just saying that because, like, thumbs down?
Is that voodoo?
No, it's all good. It's all good.
I thought it was voodoo. So, hold on, just hear me out. So, I thought the same thing about the Enneagram in grad school was when I first learned about it. I was like, this is bullcrap.
Witchcraft.
What is this stuff? And I thought it was goofy, right? But then, the teacher will appear when the student is ready. So, literally, like, 12 years later, I just like, okay, I'll give this a try. And I took some real tests, like the kind that you pay money for, so it's legit. It's not just a Facebook poll kind of thing. And so I did it, and I was like, okay, this is hitting something. This is like speaking to something in my spirit, right? And so I really dove into that head first. And then the constant listening of podcasts that challenge me, that encourage me, that I learn stuff from. That is that's what keeps me going. And a constant routine of visualization, of journaling, of prayer, of meditation, of exercise, of state change. The cold dip, the cold shower, that's a real thing, a state change. And that is that's been my life for a long time.
And you got state change from Tony Robbins?
Yeah, Tony Robbins talks about state change, change your state, change your mind. So if you're feeling crappy, you're feeling weird, not motivated, do something physical. Because our minds follow our physical body. So if I have to jog in place for a minute or go splash my face with cold water, state change, and then I can think differently. So what about you, John?
A couple things. One, I read pretty obnoxiously, and so the books that have been pretty important in the last couple of days, there's a book by Robert Sapolsky called Behave that's really transformative. It's real thick, but he writes science, but he writes it like a comic strip, so it's really great. And then Emily Nagoski's book, which I've had on my shelf forever, I just never read it, and that was just kind of annoying how good it is.
Yeah.
And then I went when this thing was looking like we were going to have several million people dead, and this was going to, I went and picked up, oh gosh, I just lost it, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl's book. Right. To kind of reframe, where are we headed, and what can something look like when the wheels really fall off, and that's just a good re-perspective book. Yeah. And then, I'm a high-touch, high-connectivity person. Like, it's important for me, and so I'm having to, and it's weird because when I get frustrated or frightened or anxious, I would draw. And so I do the thing that I need the least, right? So I've had to be hyper intentional about calling friends and family. I'm starting to laugh now when I call every day. Be really hands-on with my kids, be really intentional about communicating with my wife. And so those are really important. And then, I've got a group of just wonkadoo people across the country like you two that are way smarter than me and are doing way cooler things than I'm doing, and I like hearing about what they're experiencing. And so I just love being with people, whether they work at Burger King or whether they're running a big machine.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Another book that you made me think of is it's a book called the author is James Allen, and it's As a Man Thinketh.
Oh,
do you know that one? It's really short. You should read that one. You can read it in like an hour. It's As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. It's great. It's really good.
Do we have that?
Yeah, we have it.
I've been taking notes as we're talking about our books, but some of the books that have really, really impacted how I think and behave are anything by Wayne Dyer. He is crazy, weird, goofball guy. Do you know Wayne Dyer at all?
No, not at all.
So he has a book called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, and he passed away like a few years ago, but he was this like spiritual, enlightened type dude. But
Well, he was a
just,
PhD psychologist for a long time.
He's a PhD psychologist, but he anything from him is just so incredibly amazing. And he did like, what is the Tao Te Ching one he did? He just is amazing. So anything from Wayne Dyer has been life transforming for me. Also books about like neuroscience from Dr. Dan Siegel. Any TED Talks that Dr. Dan Siegel does, I'm such a huge fangirl of him. Those have been really insightful. Emily Nagoski's book, Come As You Are, when I listen to the audiobook where she narrates it, it's really impactful because she's such an amazing educator. It gives me so much like, oh, amazing educators are changing the world, right? But stuff like that, stuff that helps you look at your own behavior in a way that is not condemning. It's not like, thou shalt burn in hell forever because thou hast done this. It's more like, hey, have you thought about maybe not doing that? It doesn't help. Another one is The Family Ties That Bind is currently a book I'm reading. I love it. I finished it like 2 days ago and I'm like, this is blowing my mind. And it's a thin book. It's not a hard read. It's really well written. So I'm really thankful for you sharing like actual books and titles of things and stuff like that, because I think that's where people get stuck. They go, oh yeah, I'm supposed to change. I'm supposed to become who I want to become. Where do I go? Where do I look? What do I, you know? And they're watching like the news all day and eating ice cream and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, all right, John. Know your time's super valuable, and I want to ask you one thing. What is giving you jazz right now? Like, it could be, I like staring at, I don't know, 10 penny nails. Who knows? That's just super random. The feed froze.
Did we freeze? Can you see
can you hear us?
I can hear you, but
Oh, that's so weird.
Okay.
Oh, now you're frozen. Oh, there we go.
We're back?
We're back.
Okay. So, what...
Oh.
Dang it.
Why does this happen? We're going to end and we're going to start over.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sure. Do it quickly. We'll
Okay.
end and start over. 1 second. End now.
And
Share.
now.
Share.
Shared a story. Now what?
Go live.
Go live. Go live and then invite him. Why did it do that? Do we have to invite him?
No, he'll join. Or...
Dang it! Do we have his number?
No, it's going.
Sorry, guys.
Ah,
It happened again.
yeah, sorry. Sorry, Facebook.
Okay.
Okay, go.
No! Stop! Yes.
Okay. All right, let's wrap it up too. So,
What were you saying though?
I have it still. Come on, Delony.
We can do. Hey!
Okay.
Okay, we're back.
Okay.
I'm back. Yes.
So-
Hey, that was a good cliffhanger, Seth.
I know.
We're gonna ask you, and then it was off.
So, okay, one thing that I want to ask you: what is bringing you joy or jazz, or what are you just super into like right now, today?
I followed my mom's lead, so I worked for almost 2 decades to get to an executive leadership plan at college, at university. I knew that system. I knew all of how it works. I knew the laws. I knew all the players. I knew how people were going to respond. And then about the same age that my mom did, when she just took a right turn in her life and just said, I want to do something different. And so this idea of being on a camera, the idea of having any social media, the idea of being on with 17 million people every week with Dave's show, like all of that is new. And so I'm having to learn a whole new industry on the fly in the middle of a pandemic and being the voice of a thing, right? And so all I'd say is the excitement of learning something new on the fly, dude, is just lighting me up. It's awesome. I'm going to bed and I'm sleeping hard and I'm waking up ready to rock and roll in a way that I haven't in a long time. So that's been really awesome. Been really cool.
That's so cool.
That is awesome.
I heard Dave say that you're getting your own podcast soon. That's exciting.
Yeah, dude, there's a whole bunch of stuff going. Again, it wasn't in the works for a year or so, but it's happening fast. And so, again, trying to keep up is a blast, and it's new, and just being excited about it.
Yeah. Do you want me to say a joke that's going to make Seth mad? Are you ready for it?
No.
Bring it.
Is the name of your podcast going to be No Baloney with John Delony? He's like, please don't say baloney and Delony in the same sentence.
No, dude, that's my childhood, man. It's, when your name rhymes with like a crappy lunch meat, dude, it's just got part of it, man.
I know. I get flack for the name Studley too. So.
Oh, you don't get flack. Everyone loves it. Anyway,
it's gonna be awesome.
right.
Yeah.
Well, let us know if.
I just woke up.
What is happening? We're live right now. Sorry, Joey. Who knows what just happened?
Thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in there. My alarm went off. I thought it shut off. See you later.